Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, and I'm excited to have a very special guest on the show today. Michelle and I have known each other for a few years, and um, I want her to tell you about herself and about what she's doing in motorsports because it's amazing. And her company just keeps growing and growing and in influencing and promoting women in motorsports. And so, Michelle, welcome to the show. And I want you to just take it away because, as we discussed, I have a bad cough and I'm going to try to be as quiet as possible
Sure.
and let you run the show today. How's that?
I'll do my best.
Okay, awesome.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me again. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm Michele Della Penna, and I'm the founder of the Della Penna Foundation, which is a nonprofit that is geared towards getting young girls interested in motorsports. We introduce all sorts of motorsports initiatives. So we have karting scholarships, we have immersive track weekends, we have fellowships, we have a whole host of ways to get girls interested and introduced to motorsports. I was raised in motorsports. My father was a race car driver and then an IndyCar team owner. So I spent a lot of time in Indianapolis and just touring the circuit with him. And it was a fantastic way to grow up. And I absolutely love this sport. I have three sons, coincidentally, and they all grew up racing in some capacity. They're still quite, young, but they all had exposure to karting and, playing with my dad's race cars and working on them. And it's just a really fantastic industry. And I realized when one of my sons was go-karting that there just still weren't a lot of girls on the grid. And I started to wonder why in a time where, sports are really a lot more equal, why there weren't more women. And so I started to do a little research, and it turns out, as I wasn't unaware of, but racing is very expensive, and it's a little bit elitist, and it's a little bit difficult to get introduced to. It's not something you're going to play in PE or, at your local community center. So I thought, well, gosh, maybe I can just help put some money behind some young women who want to start learning about motorsports and karting and all of that. And then this foundation was born really as a tribute to my father and, just my wonderful upbringing with him. So that was about 3.5 years ago, going on 4 years. And I put this foundation together by hook or by crook. My executive director, Susan, is my right-hand person. I couldn't do any of this without her. And we've really struck up some beautiful relationships. Obviously, we're based in California, but we have a wonderful community in Indianapolis that has opened their arms to us and helped us out. We have a wonderful community in Charlotte where General Motors is. We'll be hosting our second fellowship this summer, which I'll be talking more about. So we've started to kind of really establish ourselves. We focus on young women between the ages of 5 to 17, and we really expose them to all the aspects. So it's not just STEM, it's not just engineering, it's not just mechanics. It's sort of like showing motorsports as an industry as a whole, everything from marketing, PR, photography, advertising, what goes into motorsports in general, and showing young women that there's a possibility for a career here. And so it's been just an amazing experience. This is super, super humbling. But we, every month we, get something that sort of propels us forward, some good news, some sort of, silver lining. It is incredibly difficult to run a nonprofit. I don't suggest it for anybody because it is really difficult. I find myself constantly asking people for money, which is not a comfortable place for me, but, it is a cause that I deeply, deeply believe in. And we've been able to make some really amazing connections. So here we are in 2025, and we have some really wonderful programs coming up. So first, I'd like to tip my hat to Sonoma Raceway here in California because it was one of my tracks that I grew up running around on as a toddler. My dad won numerous races there. So when we told them what we were doing and kind of some ideas that we had, they immediately jumped and said, how can we help? So this year we will be hosting 2 track invitationals. We work with Sonoma Valley High School. We have a wonderful relationship with them. And we will be bringing high school students out to the track for the Trans Am race in April, and then for the Velocity event in June. And we get to just walk the girls around. They get to meet women in the industry. They get to have lunch. They get to sit in the grandstands. They get to look at the cars. They get to look under the hood. They just, some of them get to sit in the cars and hold the steering wheel, and it's just an experience that they've never had before. And so I think, we really love our relationship with Sonoma, and they've just been so generous with us. So we have that happening in April, and we have that happening in June. So if you are interested in learning more about that, please visit our website. We have the information on there. And then we have what we call our Indy Inspire Weekend. So this happens during the qualifying weekend. This will now be our 3rd year doing it. And before we even started organizing it for this year, we started getting emails from high school students asking if we were going to do the program again. And so when I had this idea to sort of start the foundation, I'll kind of go back and then go back to the weekend.
Okay.
I, started calling everybody I knew who had once lived and worked in Indianapolis. And they all started making these really beautiful connections. And so at that time, I learned that IUPUI had a motorsports engineering program. They've sort of separated. It's now in the Purdue school, but we developed some really great relationships there. We met some engineers who'd gone through their program that are now working with Ganassi and Herta and all sorts of amazing teams. And so we started to cobble this event together where we thought, okay, can we give the girls a fully 3-day immersive experience at the track, touring the school, talking to graduates, maybe there's a go-karting component. And we were able to put a weekend together where we really were able to have all of these components available to the girls. So here we are in our 3rd year. And, obviously there has been some changes and there's been some fluctuations, but we have a really amazing weekend sort of planned. So before we even open the applications, which just opened up today. So if you are a student in Indianapolis or can get to Indianapolis for the qualifying weekend, please go to our website. The application is on the homepage. We are going to be taking the young girls to the IMS museum because that just reopened. So they have a brand new museum, and they have sim racing, and they have a pit stop challenge, and then obviously all the memorabilia and the cars. So the museum itself is going to be fabulous. I haven't been there since it's open, so I'm very excited. Then we will be going to Main Street and touring Delara and going to PRI, and the girls will get to see the cars. That Delara is really interesting because they make the cars, so I always find it super interesting being able to go into the shop and see all the parts and the fiberglass, and all the things and how it works. And then they get to sit in the cars and they get to sort of see how it feels and what it would feel like to be a driver, and and so that will be the Friday component. And then on Saturday, we're taking them to Fast Times to go karting. So our dear friends at Fast Times, Mike West is amazing. And he's been so generous to close his track for us for the whole morning, where we get to bring out these girls and they get to go out and have races. It's just so much fun. And then we'll have lunch there. And then we're going to come back to IMS and give them a paddock tour, which is just, to me, the highlight. My fondest memories were just wandering around the paddock as a child, trying to see what I could get into. And so Tejan, who is a fantastic friend of ours, she works at GM. She's an amazing engineer. She will be giving the girls a tour of GM, and they just get an insider's view that most people don't get. And especially these young girls, unless they have someone in the industry, they're just probably never going to end up there.
Nope.
And, Tejan Robinson, she's just a fabulous, but she is a force of nature. And last year when she toured the girls around, I mean, their eyes glazed over with excitement. They didn't even know, there was just so much information, and she's such a superstar. So we'll be doing that. We'll get to wander around. And then on Sunday, PRI, who is also just an amazing, amazing partner, is hosting a brunch for us at their office, and the young girls will be able to talk to all the women in the industry. So we're still putting together the lineup, but last year they talked to Sabra Cook, they talked to Lynn St. James, they talked to engineers. They talked to, Tijan was there again. And this is an opportunity for the girls to, having had experience the weekend, sort of talk to these women about their journey. How did they get there? What did they study? Did they know they wanted to do this? How did they end up here? And so most of our students are juniors, some seniors, some sophomores, but they're really in that place in high school where they're sort of figuring out, what are they going to do? What are they interested in? What are the options? What schools, offer these sorts of programs. So it's a really pivotal moment for the weekend, because it kind of helps culminate, everything that they've seen and learned. And then these women are giving them sort of their paths of how they got there. And then after that, we take them back to IMS and they watch qualifying. So they'll get to, which is fun. I mean, I find qualifying, really interesting, because, you think someone who's the fastest, and then the next person comes out and they boot them right out. And, and it's really like the stakes are high, because, you think you had a shoe in and someone was for sure going to be in, and they were the 10th quickest, and then they're out and they're not, so it's, it really shows you how quickly things can change, how high stakes things are, all this money that these teams have spent all month, this really comes down to skill, and sort of just that everything coalesces at the right time. And, it's sort of this magic alchemy that happens on the track. So that is our weekend in May. We are just so honored. Firestone, we couldn't have done this weekend without Firestone, period. Lisa Boggs, just amazing. She came in. We had some fluctuation in sponsors this year. We weren't quite sure if we were going to pull this weekend off, and Firestone stepped up and said, "We've got you. What do you need?" And so we really, huge thanks to Firestone. We couldn't have been able to do this without them. And so, once we got that kind of green light, and we, went out to Indy and started, putting all the pieces together, everything just sort of fell in beautifully. So we are so excited. So yeah, if anybody's interested, please go to our website, because it really is a great event. And last year we did have to turn away quite a few applicants because we just didn't have the funding or the capability to do more. But our goal is that moving forward, we'll be able to double, maybe triple our numbers. It really comes down to funding for us, to be able to scale it up. But
how many girls will you be able to have at the event?
This year we'll have 24.
Okay.
So we have 24 students. We usually have anywhere from 5 to 7 volunteers. Some of the volunteers are alumni who, came with us over the last year. So it's so gratifying for them to come back. Some of them are already in college. So it's really great to kind of have them come and share their experience with the girls as well. But we're really, really excited for that. So that's sort of in the works. And then, like I said, we'll be doing an event in June back at Sonoma for the velocity races. And then one of the things that we will now be doing, this will be the 3rd year, is our fellowships. So our fellowships are a week-long shadow experience. It's not interning. It is strictly for high school students. And we have a variety of organizations that we work with. So we're sort of still putting the roster together, but it's just a week-long shadow experience that, we work with the organization, and we curate a week of sort of different experiences, meetings, on hand, or, like hands-on rather work that they get to sort of like just really get an in-depth,
there's nothing like being there and putting your hands on something. I mean, totally. There's no substitute for that.
Yeah, it really, and it gives it's a little bit more intimate. You have a one-on-one, relationship. So for our first year, we had a really lovely young lady, Alexandra Peachy, who went and did Herta, Andretti, Steinbrenner Racing, sort of did this amalgamation of this wonderful week where she got to come out and meet just a whole host of women, engineers, marketing, PR, all the things. And she sat in on meetings, and she went to testing, and she just did so many things. It was amazing. So fast forward, she was our first scholar of this, and she has now gone on, and she is going to the Purdue Motorsports Engineering program next year. She was accepted. Everything for the financial aid fell into line, and she is a living example of why we are doing what we are doing. And so she is such a firecracker. She's just, I can't wait to see what happens. She'll be there in May helping us as well. And so, but she is just, when she told us she applied, we were super excited. When she told us she was accepted, we were excited. When she told us she had, chosen that was her school, we were just elated, because she's just a walking testament to everything that we hope this foundation, will do. So
she's a living example of everything that you've dreamed of and put together. Yeah. She's a living example of it coming to fruition.
Yeah, it's really, really great. So we'll be having fellowships in Indianapolis. We'll be having fellowships in Charlotte with GM. We'll be having fellowship in Sonoma. So, we will be letting everybody know when those applications are live. But, we are definitely hosting in those 3 cities, hopefully trying to branch into more. We're not quite sure. So just, stay present with our social media or on our website to sort of see if there's one in your area, because they're really just a great experience. Yeah. And it's, you don't have to work. You're really just sort of a fly on the wall. You're there. Right. You get to just absorb and ask questions. And every woman that has been involved in the fellowships, it feels so gratifying to them, because they're able to give back. And that's really the whole point of this, is just, giving back so that the next generation can kind of come and take over. So,
well, and the chance for them to have the chance to see so many different, like, occupations, if you will, they might think that they want to do one thing, and then after they get there and they see something that they didn't know about or they hadn't thought about, and then it sparks their interest. Exactly. So it's such a great learning without having to go through, you hear of college kids going through 4 years of college. They get out and they either can't find a job, they don't like the job, what they thought they wanted to do. And this gives them an opportunity to kind of have a little sneak peek
totally
at all those things. And what an opportunity for kids. It's just amazing.
Yeah. It feels super gratifying. I mean, you start something with the best of intentions and with kind of a rough outline of how you think it's going to go. And then it sort of takes on a life of its own. And this foundation is, it is exactly that, and it's kind of developed into all things that are even better than I could have imagined. So, on that note, I will also talk about our scholarship programs.
Yes, so please.
We have partnered with Rod Reed, who runs an incredible organization called NXG Racing, based in Indianapolis and also in Detroit. Rod is just a really amazing human being. It is an honor, honestly, to know him. And when this foundation started, we were introduced by, a mutual friend, and he really just got on board immediately. And it's a beautiful sort of relationship, because initially I wanted to be able to offer karting scholarships for young girls. I don't have a karting team. I don't have a racing team. I have none of that capability. And Rod has all of that infrastructure, and he really focuses on kids who come from really, really difficult backgrounds and situations. And so it was just this completely natural partnership between our organizations. And so for the past 3 years, we have been able to give scholarships in both his karting development program and also in his Grand Prix program, which is a karting season. And so we've given 4 scholarships. We have a scholarship for a young lady named Cheyenne, who will be doing the karting season this year. And then we are going to be opening up applications for a couple of students in his development program. But one of the young ladies who graduated, her name is Aubrey Walker, who was just on your show not so long ago. She is a badass. I mean, she really is such.
She is.
I have never met a student, I think she's about 17 now.
I think so.
And who's so driven and focused and poised and eloquent. I mean, she is so smart. And I don't use that loosely or gratuitously. I mean, she really is just, she really has an awareness about where she is, where she wants to go. It is quite impressive. And so she did the development, she did the Grand Prix season, and she, and so she has graduated out of that now. She's going to be going to Skip Barber. And so we are going to be helping her in portion with Rod with that. And She also did one of our fellowships last year at IMS. So she really is, again, another testament to why we do what we do. She has taken every opportunity we've given her and made the absolute most of it.
Right.
And I have no doubt that whatever she ends up doing, whether it's driving, mechanics, engineering, a combination of all of those things, that she is going to see great success. She is really just a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous young lady. So she will be joining us in May as well.
She was so impressive to me when I interviewed her. And Michele, there's a lot of girls that I interview that I don't know a lot about ahead of time. She
Sure.
was one of them. And I just sat and listened. And you would have not believed she was 17.
Yeah.
And whatever she ends up doing, the people that have her in their organization are going to be so fortunate. And I don't say that lightly.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree. She really has a vision for what she wants to do. And I fully believe that she will do it. So, again, thanks to Rod and NXG for the connection. Her family is wonderful. They're deeply involved, and which obviously you need. You cannot do this without familial and community support. And she knows herself. I think the awareness for a 17-year-old, again, is a little bit shocking, but
Yes.
She really knows herself. And I think she's, and she has a fearlessness about her that I just did not have. So it's deeply impressive to me. So, but she's great. And there's just a maturity around her. I think, she takes these opportunities very seriously. And so she's, it's been an honor to support her. And I can't wait to see what she does with Skip Barber. I have no doubt that she will make the most of it.
Well, and the other thing, Michele, is there are more young women out there like her.
Yeah.
You just have to find them.
Yes.
And through the things that you offer, they kind of rise to the top, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. I mean, part of all of this is, it's, we're kind of living in a culture right now where, saying diversity and equity and inclusion and all these things is a little bit of a bad word. And, I guess I would just like to sort of challenge it's not putting someone in the job who's not capable. It's about exposing them to a job that they didn't know was even available.
Yes.
Right. And so, quality and competency and talent is always going to rise to the top, always. Whether it's a Nepo baby or a, DEI initiative or whatever, the talent will always rise. Yes. Right. But if you don't even know that there is this possibility, then how would you ever know to go for it? And so I think the entire thing that drives us is just bringing those opportunities to the forefront. And if all we have is all we ever had, then we're really not bringing in any new ideas and ingenuity and creativity and a different point of view. I mean, that's sort of the idea, right? Is if we just have the same people who've been running it for the last 300 years, it's going to get a little stale, and it should probably look a little bit more like the world that we live in, right? Which is, diverse. I mean, my gosh, we're a melting pot. So let's have this amazing industry that we all love so much look a little bit more like that, and if someone isn't talented, regardless of, race or gender, then they probably won't succeed. So how about we just give everybody the opportunity to see if they can succeed, and then we'll kind of go from there, but,
they say, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got.
Yeah.
And it's the same with people. If you always, bring the same people in, same, kind of background and all that, then you're always going to have the same outcome. Right. Whereas the diversity that I see, and I'm with you, diversity is important. And we are a country filled with people from all backgrounds, all nations, all colors. And that's what makes us so special.
Yeah.
And if we can't offer opportunities to all of those people equally, and then let them fail or succeed.
Exactly.
That's not on us. That's on them. But
Right.
we have to show them what's available.
Right. Exactly. I mean, look, my father was an immigrant. I have a deeply embedded immigrant mentality, inside me. But when my dad and my uncle came here from Argentina, I mean, they had really thick accents. They were they were not widely respected at first. They kind of spoke funny, and they were different, and they did things that were different, and they had to really fight for where they got. And so I think, that was, my dad held that close to his heart, and he gave opportunities to a lot of different people because, he was given opportunities and had to fight for those. And so, for me, it's just being able to carry on that legacy is deeply, deeply important. And so, and also selfishly, I want to see a more diverse field. Frankly, I mean, it's not interesting to me if everybody, and this is no shade to anybody, but if they're all just sons and nephews of the former, it's just not interesting to me anymore. It's like, okay, we know you come from $1 billion family. We get it. Like,
no,
that's not interesting anymore. Anybody with $1 billion can make a fast car. I mean, it's okay. So let's make it interesting, and also, if you want to talk about the state of motorsports, I mean, it's, sort of slightly inclining now, but there was a period where open wheel racing in the United States, no one gave a shit about, right? I mean, if it wasn't NASCAR, nobody was paying attention.
Right.
And so, let's start looking at the different markets that we can, sort of harness. I mean, I think part of F1's success now in the US is largely, attributed to the Netflix series.
Absolutely.
I mean, I grew up with F1. I mean, Ayrton Senna was a god in my house. Okay. We had the whole thing. But, in the US, I don't, a lot of people were like, what is that? Open wheel? What? And now they've opened up this whole different audience of people. I mean, that's marketing, that's advertising. There's so, many ways to capitalize on this. And, and now we have the F1 Academy. Thank you to Susie Wolf. Okay. Huge, huge, huge shout out. One of our young drivers who just joined our driver council is Courtney Crone, who's doing F1 Academy. I mean, there are so many initiatives to just make it more interesting. I mean, I think if we take the DEI word out of it, or, acronym out of it, and just say we want to make it more interesting, then I think, the only way to do that is by including more people and getting different voices in the room. So,
well, and like you said, anybody with billions of dollars can probably be successful, right?
Sure.
But even, I follow NASCAR very closely. There's a young man from Portage, Michigan, I've known since he was young, and he he's in the Cup Series, and it doesn't. Yes, if you have lots of money, you can get further. That's just how it is.
Sure.
But now we're starting to see where, look at Josh Berry. He just won a Cup race. He didn't come from all of that, but he got noticed by Dale Jr.
Nice.
And so we need to look at the talent and the overall what they bring to the sport, not how many dollars they bring to the sport.
Absolutely. So that's the spiel. That's our whole thing. And, we've been really lucky to be able to keep this foundation going. It, is a labor of love. And we're really excited to see, what 26 brings. I mean, we're just a few months into 2025. We seem like our calendar is pretty tight and sort of sealed up, and, we're really excited. So, I encourage anybody who's interested to go to our website, go to our social, media. We're on Instagram and Twitter.
So share what those would be so that people can find you.
It's a great question. So the website is dellapennafoundation.org. And then Instagram and Twitter is DP Foundation. Okay. So, but everything is on our website. We have a calendar of all of our events. We have our driver advisory council. We have our industry advisory council, which has Lynn St. James and Beth Peretta. Amazing. Also hugely helpful. And we have a small but mighty team of people who are really dedicated and love doing this. So, if there's an event in your area, or you're interested, or you have a question, I mean, the beauty of being kind of so small and hands-on as we are still at this stage is, we are able to field all of the emails directly. And so, we'll get a lot of young girls or parents say, hey, my daughter is interested in this. what do you think? And so,
Right.
if there's a way that we can be a springboard for something, or create some connection somewhere, we're going to do it. So,
yeah, it's amazing. And excuse me, so sorry. It's amazing. And the thing is that you just have to get the word out about what you're doing. And
yeah,
that's why we're doing this. And I know there are a lot of people that know about it, but there's also a lot of people that don't know about it.
yes,
And so in order for you to grow and really do your best work, we just have to let people know of what you're doing. And that's why I wanted to have you back on, because
thank you.
I know there's a lot of exciting things in the works. And so, Michele, I just want to thank you so much for sharing and for doing all that you're doing. I've got to come to Indy to that event.
We
I'm
would,
going to volunteer.
yes, done and done. We would love to have you. It would be an honor. So
Yeah, that
thank
would
you
be
so much.
awesome. I'm
Yeah.
only about 4 hours away. There's no
Please,
excuse.
please, please, please. We'll send you the details offline, but we would love it.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Anything else that you want to share before we close out?
I mean, check out our website. We are a, proper nonprofit. So please donate. Every dollar that you donate goes directly
Yeah.
into our programming. So there is,
Yeah.
it really just goes straight through. So if there's, if you are somewhere, you have a track, or you have a karting school, or you're somewhere and you're interested in maybe hosting an event, reach out. We're putting together the calendar for 2026. So,
Okay.
if there's something that you think you can offer us in any way, we are all ears, and the more the merrier. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
yeah,
Michele, I hope you have a great weekend.
thank you.
Keep up the good work, and I'm always here if I can ever do anything to
Brilliant.
help. And I'm gonna check out that weekend in Indy, because
We love
I
it.
think that, and I have cousins that live there, so I could maybe find a couch to sleep on, and
Yeah,
so that would be great, wouldn't it?
we
I
would
have
love.
no excuses
Yeah,
not to
we
be
will count
there.
on you then. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you so much.
sounds good. So, Michele, again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks. Talk soon. Thanks. Bye.